My biggest success, frankly, was my divorce. Who you choose as a life partner will have the biggest impact on your life, even more so than I think if you decide whether or not to have children. Your life partner, if when chosen right, you two will, it's not 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 = 1,000. You will 10x each other's lives. And then the opposite is true when you choose the wrong partner. It's not 1 + 1, then it's like negative 10,000.
Hello there, loves. Welcome to another episode of The Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and this is your destination, your oasis to be all things just a little bit more brave in your actions, in your relationships, and in your life. And today I have a powerful question for you. What if your biggest success was walking away from a marriage that didn't light you up, from a relationship that perhaps took an emotional toll on you, and you set foot to reinvent yourself in every area of your life? Well, my guest today has not only done just that, but she's also the founder of 4 companies that she's built from scratch, from the ground up, and that she's sold. So buckle up, get ready, because this is going to be a very juicy conversation with Heidi DeCoux on The Brave Table this week.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. So I just want to get into it. You are not only someone who is a go-getter, a goal-getter, and I feel like nothing has stopped you. And where do you draw all that inspiration from?
I mean, since childhood, I was the kid that was starting businesses, at age 9, making bracelets and selling them, just finding opportunities. And I've always had just natural drive. I didn't really need motivation. So I guess that was just kind of a gift I was born with.
I ask everyone, what's your sign?
Gemini.
Okay. And do you know your rising?
Sagittarius, I think.
Okay.
Or Leo. One's Sagittarius, one's Leo.
Okay.
I don't remember which is which.
Sagittarius rising or moon?
Maybe it's moon.
Okay.
And Leo rising, or vice versa.
Because I can definitely see you as a Sag rising, just because you've traveled and you kind of go from place to place.
Yeah.
And I can see the Leo with obviously building the 4 companies and exiting them. Okay. Amazing. So tell us a little bit about your biggest success to date, and why do you feel like it has been your biggest success?
Yeah, I mean, having built 4 companies, sold 3 of them, my biggest success, frankly, was my divorce. Who you choose as a life partner will have the biggest impact on your life, even more so than I think if you decide whether or not to have children. Your life partner, if when chosen right, you two will, it's not 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 = 1,000. You will 10x each other's lives. And then the opposite is true when you choose the wrong partner. It's not 1 + 1, then it's like negative 10,000, right? And so that was what I was in. I'd realized that I had meticulously and painstakingly spent years building this golden prison that I thought I wanted, a life that I thought I wanted, that was really designed around a lot of childhood trauma. And
let's go into that a little bit, because what were some of the things that were playing out from the childhood trauma that then eventually spilled into this marriage?
So I had a mom that, was a complicated situation as a child, and my then husband came with a built-in live-in mother-in-law. And
as they do.
Which at first glance was like, wow, he has this doting Indian mom that just, is, seemingly loving and cooks and just dotes over him and always wanted a daughter. He was an only child, so she only had a son. And so there was that wow, built-in mom, mothering me, that, appeared on the surface of the situation. And then Because, I've always had drive. My friends actually jokingly call me the optimizer because I love optimizing everything. When I walk into any establishment, I'm immediately just seeing all the things that can be optimized in it. I guess hence that was maybe a drive towards starting businesses, early on. And so I was trying to create this like highly optimized life, but then also like a big life. I grew up in small town Minnesota, blue collar parents that worked at the same union blue collar jobs for 40 plus years before they retired. I never fit in there. I just always had, big dreams and big ideas. And so when I met my then husband, he also seemed to have big ideas and big dreams. And so we connected on that. The problem though is that translated, at the time, I thought that translated to have, two massive houses in, one in the Caribbean and one, outside, Manhattan and northeastern Pennsylvania, and just like a boat and just like all of this like big life, right? Yeah. And what I found was like none of that filled me up. We were just on this constant like rat race to just keep up and to make our life bigger and bigger. And I was left exhausted all the time. Having a mother-in-law live with me, she was aging, plus struggled with depression through the COVID era. And there was a lot of expectation that I handle everything at home. In fact, she would just say like they were, South Asian Indian family. And from the area that they were in and the family that she grew up in, it was that as soon as the son takes a wife, the wife takes over and handles everything. Mm-hmm. And so does all the emotional labor, all the physical labor. And then on top of that, I'm running businesses to basically keep up with and maintain this lifestyle that we had built. And then he was just on this like continually grow the lifestyle. And as I went through that marriage and was really kind of healing myself and working on myself, I was growing and I was discovering that this actually wasn't like, it's very Instagram worthy life. And as a little girl from the outside looking in, it would have looked amazing, sure. Right?
Like it's like everything that you wanted.
Right.
It's this fairy tale dream
right.
life that you built.
Exactly.
And, I think so many people can relate to that because so often when we grow up in a certain way, and then when we finally reach whatever that pinnacle of whatever that outwardly success is, it's kind of like, oh, we've got the golden handcuffs, or as you say, the golden prison that you were building. Were there, signs that, oh no, like, is this going to work out? Did you ever question it, or was that ever in the back of your mind?
I didn't question it till we were like in the marriage, even though, looking back, there were, 100 red flags that I just refused to look at. And
well, what are some of those red flags? Because I think, people listening to this, they're like, yeah. Oh my gosh, Heidi, you're a baddie. You could, you built all these companies, you have a doting mother-in-law, you have this incredible life that you built. So what's wrong?
Yeah. So, some of the red flags, as when we had gotten engaged, he actually said, like verbatim, my mother will always come first. I'll always love her more. Her needs will always come before yours. And so just like know that. And I was so deep in and obviously in love, and we, were dreaming the big dreams together. And I think I didn't totally believe that. I thought, oh, it's just because they've just had each other their whole lives. And then also, I thought it somehow like wouldn't matter. Like we are just going to build this great life and it's going to be the three of us and it's going to be fantastic. Mm-hmm. So that was one of them. I think another was I was pretty exhausted. Like during our engagement, we were literally renovating a huge, like a 6,800 square foot house. I was the general contractor in it. I was launching a company that I ended up selling 5 years later. So I was launching it from like a construction zone in our dining room. I was converting to Ismaili Muslim for his family. I was doing I was working from like 5 a.m. till 11 at night, 7 days a week. I was completely exhausted. And so in part in the exhaustion, I just kept thinking that I just need to push through. And then the other side of this, I'm going to have the life that I really want, instead of stopping and saying, wait, if the journey is exhausting, and if then that's a sign that you're probably not headed for the correct destination.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so many of us, we think we can fix the other person, and we're going to save face, and we're going to, there's this beautiful saying that South Asians say is log kya kenge, what will people say, or what will people think? And, just listening to your story, I'm just kind of reminded of my own story. And I know offline we've chatted about kind of our bouts of divorce. And, I think that to make a big decision like that, it's huge, because there's not just you and your partner involved. There is the in-laws, and you are so kind of, it sounds like there was that enmeshment because there were such tight dynamic and deep bonds there. Did you ever think like, oh, it's going to be different, they're going to change?
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought we'll just all meld together. There'll be give and take. Everyone's going to give and compromise. And, that was the opposite that happened. It was that I was expected to do all of the bending all of the time. In fact, I created, problems with my family that has taken years to repair, because it was expected that for every holiday, his family was always first, no matter what was going on with my family. It was like, where you can only go see them or meet their needs if it's highly convenient for us, and if it doesn't conflict with anything in our family at all. And that, created a lot of tension, a lot of resentment with my family. They felt very hurt because I did for a long time bend and allowed that to happen, which was, then it took me years afterwards to really repair that damage. And so that's another thing I would say. If you're in a situation where you are doing all of the bending, or even if you're doing more than half of the bending, it's time to stop and slow down and reassess.
Yeah. Wow. And so what do you think is one boundary every woman should set, whether in relationships and or business? And what are some of the things that you learned having gone through this crazy experience to then help you in leadership?
Put your oxygen mask on first before assisting others. And, I didn't do that. I was taking care of everybody's oxygen masks and not even taking in my own oxygen, which just left me completely exhausted. And the more exhausted and run you are, the less able you are to actually make good decisions. So it ends up being this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, or this perpetual thing, right? And so you've got to fill your own cup and take care of yourself. And if you and I started doing that in my marriage. I actually stopped and was like, this isn't working. I have to take care of me. And it created loads of problems. That was what really ended up popping the pimple. It was like, how dare you? You should, and they would literally say, you should be putting us first. You should be taking care of us. And it had me realize whoa, I'm not actually imagining this. This is the setup is made not to, I can't work within the setup. The setup I'm made to fail in the setup.
Yeah. No matter what you do, it's not going to be enough.
Right.
No matter how much you bend, it's still not going to be enough.
Yes.
And you're still going to want more and more and more. And that then becomes a toxic environment in a relationship. So I love that, putting on the oxygen mask first. Well, what if it is hard for some of us because, we've been doing it our whole lives. We've been managing the emotional load at home, with our friends, in the workplace. We're the organizer, we're the planner, we're the all-doer. And was there a time where that emotional burden was so much on your nervous system that you were like, all right, I've had it. Because I think some people watching this or listening to this are like, but aren't we meant to hold that much?
No, I would say we're absolutely not. And if we're in the right kind of partnership, we can each be highly supportive of each other and 10x each other's lives without it costing any one person, right? Like we should be adding to each other, not and helping each other like carry that burden. So for me, yeah, I did get to a moment where I knew that I would become a chronically ill person if I didn't break this cycle and I didn't take care of me. And I had actually just lost myself, or I didn't even know who me was anymore. I was just completely living for other people. And so I dismantled my entire life. I literally filed for divorce, sold my company, and moved to a new city all at the same time. And my identity was very tied up in my business and tied up in just in being an entrepreneur and having a business. All of the businesses that I had before, I started the next one before I exited the last one. So there was always overlap. And so I had been working since literally I was like 9. Like I had been, and regularly like working regular constant jobs and maybe having a little, child side business since I was like 14, right? And so I didn't know who I was without work. Yeah. And I didn't know who I was without the context of this marriage and thinking that I wanted this big life and I wanted kids and so here I am in my 40s having, not had children, realizing that I absolutely did not want to be in this marriage. I needed a break from everything. So selling my company, and I had bought a condo in a new city, and there was nothing had been delivered yet other than Costco mattress on the floor. I had paper plates. And remember, I came from we had these 2 huge, beautiful, perfect houses and like the whole thing. And I am sitting in this
tiny apartment, starting over.
Yeah. And
scratch.
I was like, I have no business. I have no income. I don't even know my identity and who I am right now. I don't have kids. I don't have a marriage, a relationship. I have a mattress on the floor with paper plates. And I was like, and I'm in my 40s. So it was that moment, but there was a peacefulness to it, right? Like I wasn't depressed. I was actually the opposite. I was like there was a breath where I was like, I don't know what's next. I don't know. Even if I was going to stay here, part of me was like, why did I buy this condo? Maybe I should have been renting. Do I even want to live here? I just, had to make a lot of decisions very quickly.
But what are like the magical moments that you started to see in the spaciousness of this new kind of void in your life, right? Because you had this space, you had maybe consciously, subconsciously created that space to not have that business anymore and not have that relationship, and you're in a brand new city. Now, Brave Table fam, we're not telling you to go do all of these things, but I feel like many times on the show, we talk about kind of our come to the knees moments that we have, and those moments that really leap us into our next chapter, whether we want it or not. And for you, this was a choice. And so, talk to me about, some of the challenges that were there, but also what was the magic and the beauty that you discovered in yourself during that time?
Yeah, I discovered a lot of magic and beauty. I kind of went on a Eat, Pray, Love sabbatical, which I highly recommend. Everybody does at least once in their life.
Agreed.
There was a moment that started tough, but ended magical in that my housekeeper was there. We're unpacking boxes, and we come to this box of my then ex-husband and I, when we were married, had been trying to get pregnant for quite a while, years. And there was a box of these, fertility testing kits and pregnancy kits. And we even had some onesies and stuff at one point. We thought we were pregnant, and long story. Anyway, so we had this stuff. So, and actually we're pulling it out of multiple boxes is what was happening. Random stuff was in different boxes. So we're pulling it out, and she had created this pile, and she's like, so what are we doing with this? And I, at first I was like very teary and was like, cause there was this death of this old life that I thought I wanted and that I thought I was going to have. And I was like, just put it all in this little box and like throw it on the shelf. And I need to just, we need to keep moving. I don't know. And I started processing that in therapy. And the magic that came out of that was I realized I actually don't want to be a mother. I love working with the at-risk youth in my nonprofit, and I'm passionate about the nonprofit work, and that really fills my cup. I actually realized I thought that I wanted that. I'd been conditioned since childhood that you grow up, you get married, you have kids, and if you want a career, okay, but really you just want to have kids. And it was like this freeing moment of like, wait, I actually don't need to birth the baby. I can make so much more positive impact by not putting the extensive amount of energy and time and bandwidth it takes into raising kids, into like working with all of the youth in my nonprofit. And that actually fills my cup so much more. And it was like this like relief once I got to that. And I got to that because every day on my way into the bathroom through my closet, there's a box that literally says, it's my housekeeper labeled it baby stuff. And I had to look at that every day. And it forced me to really face that and talk about that in therapy and have this aha moment that was extremely freeing for me.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And I think, what a full circle moment to be able to, alchemize some of that pain, where I think so often, when we have this idea or this identity, especially if, whether through, fertility challenges or whatnot, but to be able to kind of fully come back to that circle and say, actually, here's that blessing, here's that gift, and I'm going to take that forward instead of, kind of sitting in the suck in the death of that. I mean, both of those are good ways to process, but I feel like you had such a knack for extracting the wisdom and then carrying it forward, which kind of brings me to the segue, because you have such a passion for your nonprofit, Financial Titans, and just talk to us about that, because so many moms who are listening and watching, they are like, all right, we want a Heidi in our house. We want our kids to start businesses. Like, what should we be doing? And what is the number one thing that you see with the youth that you work with in terms of being able to understand money and financial literacy?
My belief is that when kids have deep financial literacy, meaning they actually know how to make money, so we actually help them get businesses off the ground, and they may or may not be lifelong entrepreneurs, but they learn so many skills in that process. So they know how to make money, save money, spend money, protect money, how money works in the world, and they know how to take care of their mental and emotional well-being. Once they have those two things, which is the focus of our program, they can go out and live their dream life. Everything else is like sprinkles on the sundae. I mean, outside of, obviously they have to be able to read and do basic math and stuff, but outside of those basic skills, I think that those are the two things that move the needle the most. Anything else, they can take a class, hire a coach, watch YouTube videos, what have you. That's the core of it all. And what we're seeing we work with at-risk youth. With that said, by the end of this year, we're going to have our program in both Spanish and English online and available at a low price point for resourced families. And so for like your audience where they don't have at-risk, low income children, but they really want to help their kids, they can do the online program or even set up their own like pod cohort and facilitate the program. And so what we're finding with our at-risk youth is it gives them hope. And until there's so many of these kids that are living in an area where they just see poverty around them all the time. They see pretty difficult challenges around them all the time. They are in survival mode. Their nervous systems are deregulated. And so they don't make good choices, or often it's hard for them to make good choices because A, there isn't very many good choices to make. And B, there's such a state of hopelessness that it's like, why don't I just like get pregnant and have a baby? Why don't I just, deal drugs? Because they're not seeing another pathway. And so what we do is show them like, hey, we're going to help you start a business and make your first $500 and then $1,000, which is more money than they've ever seen before. And then they get the confidence. And then we show them a lot of like rags to riches stories and different, and it's not about like the money, the riches. When we say riches, we mean a rich life. We mean a life that's really, because they could be a farmer in Costa Rica and be extremely fulfilled, but they're utilizing all of these skills. They're still having to utilize communication skills, negotiation skills, money-making skills, like all of the things, right? So when we say rich, we mean like a rich life, right? And so that's what the number one thing I see with our at-risk youth that we work with is instilling that hope that then they turn a corner and they perk up and everything starts to change for them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, some of the challenges that moms are facing is kind of, with the rise of AI and, going to school, the education system is completely different than when obviously we were going. And I feel like with AI, everything is kind of shifting and changing. And I want to get into your next adventure along the same themes of AI. But so with that in mind, what is maybe some of the tools that we can start teaching our kids even about financial literacy? Like my son the other day was, he had asked me something and it was, he's like, well, what does charge mean? Because I said, well, they're going to charge us if we, I don't know, it was like overusing because they love to play with the water at home. And I'm like, well, here, now that we're living here, we're going to get charged for that. And he was like, well, what does charge mean? And I'm like, yeah, how do I explain that to a 6-year-old charging, right? Because they don't see money because everything is on, credit cards and or online bill pay. And so, and they don't see coins. Like I remember growing up, we had like, the piggy bank and like you would see like the coin jars and I would be like putting all of my like quarters and dimes and nickels in there. We just don't use any of that anymore. Right. So I'm thinking, do I go back old school and get all of the bills and like, show him because now he's actually showing interest. Yeah. And so what do you say, to that? Help us out.
So our program at financialtitans.org it's all experiential. So we actually do it through games. So sometimes that's toys, candy. I mean, I prefer not candy, but it could be candy. All right. Try to find the healthier side of candy. Paper money. And we're actually doing games and having them see how that works. Like, okay, what are you going to do to earn X money? What is that? Okay. So sort of like what you do in Monopoly, but different structure games that are building upon each other. So starting with basic financials and like moving up. All right. Now you've got to pay things out of that. You've got taxes. You've got this. What does expenses mean? What is it, and just going through basics. And then we get more advanced where we actually have some Web3 programming, like this is how crypto works and crypto wallets. And we've got, partnerships where we'll actually put tokens in the kids' wallets so they get to have like their wallets and their tokens and get to learn, about that. So we're starting out very analog in the basic learning and then we get more advanced, as it progresses.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it seems like your divorce was your biggest success.
For sure.
And what has it given rise to now, the Heidi DeCoux today?
Yeah, I gained so much clarity on who I was and what really filled me up. And then I was able to, because of the bandwidth that so much bandwidth I got back when I stopped having to do all of the physical and emotional labor and now just take care of myself, I was able to, obviously get my nonprofit off the ground and growing. I now have a new tech startup I'm extremely excited about. We're looking at actually setting up offices in a couple of countries. I created a much bigger, deeper network, which led to some very lucrative opportunities. And then just traveling and spending time with girlfriends and taking care of my health and fitness and like all of the things that I then had the bandwidth for once I wasn't in the wrong kind of partnership. Now, I look forward to being in the right partnership. I look forward to having a life partner, but it will be one where together we 10x each other's lives. No one person is being fully drained by the other person. No one person has all of the expectations while the other person just flits around and does, whatever they want, right? It's going to be like a true partnership. And and I look forward to that. And then I think my bandwidth will expand even more in the right partnership. I've seen that with friends where I've seen, at my age now, I've seen a lot of marriages, good and bad, worked and failed. and I've seen the ones where it's like, they're actually not, and it's not like being in the right partnership takes away all your burdens and you're not going to have exhausting days or seasons of life because you're going through a lot. You have little children and new businesses and whatnot, but in the right partnership, supporting each other. I've seen this time and time again where my friends have that support. It's like the sister beams, I think they say in construction, right? Where they're beaming together and they're creating this extra strong foundation. So together they're able to do the hard things and no one person is like suffering and like the mat that everybody's walking on.
So, so true. I love that. I'm just envisioning, like two sturdy, strong, rooted, trees that are so grounded in who they are, yet their branches are reaching out to one another, and together they form that bridge of resources, wealth, ideas, creativity, expansion, empires, They're
basically like pollinating each other essentially and building off of each other. And I look forward to being in a partnership where we actually help each other realize our full selves and we encourage each other to be our full selves.
And it's possible. I feel like it's coming for you. And so talk to me about, your newest adventure, now cashflowy.ai. So you're starting an AI tech company.
Yes.
Or you've started.
Yep.
And I'm just beyond excited for you because I remember a year and a half ago when you were in my kitchen counter and we were talking about your next adventure and you wanted to merge, AI with what has been coming up. And so, and now you have this tech platform. So tell us about it. Why are you so excited about it? Why was this the next thing for you?
So AI is changing our world in extremely powerful ways. I think the general public doesn't realize the speed of change happening and how within even just 5 years, our day-to-day lives is going to look quite different. AI is going to be embedded in each one. So to say that there's nothing to be afraid of would be like gaslighting, the public. We do need to be thoughtful. With that said, we need to move quickly because the good actors need to move faster than the bad actors. It's really the only way to win this game. And I know your audience is up to doing good work in the world that really serves people. And so they can and absolutely should be leveraging AI so that they can do more of their good work in the world. They can serve more people. They can serve them better. They can stop being bogged down in administration tasks and minutia, and just all of the things can be automated now. Through the last 4 companies that I built, all 4 of them, I served solopreneurs. So the one-man, one-woman businesses, the coaches, consultants, therapists, freelancers, et cetera, healers. And I am passionate about that market. They are the largest segment, actually, in the US, the fastest growing. And they're the ones that are, I believe, doing some really, really good work. I know for myself, like my therapists, my coaches, they have made the biggest impact on my life. And even in my other businesses, hiring different freelancers to do, whether it's graphic design or do, come in and, whatever they did, it's made a huge impact in my business. So these solopreneurs, are benefiting our world in powerful ways. I want to support them. They have the least amount of resources available to them. They have the least amount of time because it's not like they can just go out and hire this huge team to do everything. They're having to do the marketing, the client delivery, the accounting, like everything, right? So this is a market I'm passionate about. I know them incredibly well. I know what their needs are, how to serve them. So when I sat down, I knew that I wanted to build a software. I knew that I wanted to be AI. I'd become, obsessed with AI. And I was like, what is one of the big pain points that's not being solved for solopreneurs right now? And I was like, finances. And accounting is one of the big things that is being transformed by AI right now. It was Andrew Horowitz, who's kind of the big dog VC in Silicon Valley. And
thank goodness. Thank goodness. Somebody needed to solve that problem of accounting.
Right. He was quoted recently saying, AI or accounting is the next $100 billion opportunity in AI because it's one of the easiest things we can ship. There's actually a massive shortage of CPAs and accountants. A good bookkeeper is on average 70% accurate. An AI bookkeeper, we're getting to almost perfect accuracy.
Wow.
And think about this. You hire, so like a solopreneur, they get some big software like a QuickBooks, FreshBooks, which is very overwhelming because it has 1,000 features.
So confusing.
A solopreneur will never use. So it's incredibly clunky and overwhelming and expensive. So then on top of that, you end up hiring a human bookkeeper to go run it for you. Okay, that can cost several $100s a month, which is a huge amount of money for a solopreneur. Then this human bookkeeper, at best, they're going to be 70% accurate. Let's say you've got a question and you email them. It's maybe 3 days before they get back to you, right?
Yep.
And so we can solve all of that with AI. So that's what we built with Cashflowy.ai. It's an AI bookkeeper that answers your questions 24/7. You can talk to it in your voice, or you can type and say, how much money did I spend on software last year? How many dollars of outstanding invoices do I have? What is, and it's going to give you accurate answers within seconds on your financials. We have a real-time dashboard, so it links to all of your business bank accounts, PayPal, Wise, Stripe, like everything you're using. And what it does is it reads the transaction. So it can't actually access any of your banking, but it just reads the transactions and then categorizes everything, all your income, all your expenses. You'll have P&Ls, balance sheets, all updated in real time, a dashboard in real time that you can look at on your phone. And here's a big thing with solopreneurs, which most of them don't have. You have to know your key numbers in order to make smart decisions in your business. If you as a solopreneur are running yourself ragged right now, it's because you're not focused on the right things. And the reason is you don't know your numbers. And so what we do is we say, hey, as a solopreneur, there's 4 primary KPIs that you need to know. If you use Cashflow, we're going to tell you exactly what those KPIs are automatically. And we're going to tell you based on what they are, what you should be focusing on in your business. So instead of being like a squirrel that's like running around, trying to do this and this and this and this and this and not getting much done because you're trying to do everything, what is the one thing you should be focused on right now that's going to move the needle in your business. Once that's done, what is the next thing that you should be focused on? And as a solopreneur, there are a lot of decisions to be made on a regular basis. When you know those KPIs, it's so much easier to make those decisions and know that you're making the right decision so that you're really moving forward. And then that's all automated. So with our Cashflow.ai, you can actually manage all of your bookkeeping yourself. No human bookkeeper needed, no finance degree. You don't even need to know finance terms in under 1 hour a month. Like
That's
literally your teenager could do it in under 1 hour a month.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And basically because it reads like all of the transactions that come in, but it doesn't take any of your information.
Right. Exactly.
And so it's just sorting it out so that you can actually talk to it and it'll tell you how you spent or what you spent on last month to make more room for whatever it is you're investing in, whether you're needing to hire another person or whatnot. So basically it's more money for you at the end of the day.
Yes. Absolutely. More money for you at the end of the day. Yeah. And we'll show you, where you can be trimming your costs and and then what to focus on so that you're actually making more money per client, you have more net revenue, and then just automating all of it.
Well, I mean, just thinking about this now, even for one of our other companies where we certify so many students, the number one issue that we get from them as to why they feel stuck is the finances. The finances and the bookkeeping and, you know, how do I even file taxes? Is there, you know, anything there that Cashflowy is going to be doing in that realm for solopreneurs?
So for 2025 taxes, so by the end of 2025, we're actually going to have a full tax system called TaxFlowy that you can purchase. That will be basically the cost of like a H&R Block, which is a very like low end tax service, but it will be the quality as if you went out and hired a $3,000 or $4,000 CPA.
Oh, wow.
So you're going to get the quality of a $3,000 to $4,000 CPA for the cost of an H&R Block because it's both AI and human CPA reviewed. So it has the entire tax code built into it. So it knows all of your deductions. And then we already have all your info. So guess what? Your preparation for tax season is 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
15 minutes. You can just answer a few basic questions that the system doesn't automatically already know, but most things it already knows because it's running all your bookkeeping for you. It's doing all of your accounting. We have a really good invoicing built in system. So it knows everything. So it's just going to ask some additional basic information that's required by the IRS. And then the AI goes to work, does this really fantastic return, which is then reviewed by a CPA, delivered to you. And then also it gets it done quickly, like
so we're not having to wait like the two months or 6 months to actually get this thing done.
No, you can just like get it done super fast.
I think that the biggest thing for a lot of entrepreneurs is the anxiety around finances and knowing what and where. So I feel like this is such a huge problem that you're solving. What is there? Can our listeners get access to Cashflowy now?
Yes. So by the time this episode airs, we will be to market. So you can go to cashflowy.ai, check it out, and we would love to work with you and handle all your bookkeeping, accounting, taxes. And then we are building a really great invoicing software. One of the big pain points with our target market is a lot of systems like, say, a QuickBooks. When you create and send invoices through it, the client that you send the invoice to is required to set up a free QuickBooks account to pay the invoice.
Oh, wow.
That creates so much friction, right?
Yeah.
And has you like chasing payments. With ours, they get your invoice and they just click, do they want to pay via credit card, PayPal, and then we're even going to eventually put in like stablecoin, et cetera. And they just pay, like one click pay. And then it automatically sends reminders if people haven't paid.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
You can just get paid so much faster. You don't have to chase people down. The system will tell you who's outstanding, who's not, who your fastest paying customers are, who your slowest paying customers are.
And you've kept this at a very easy price point for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And what is that?
So our beta founding membership, which we may or may not have any left of when this airs, is $275 a year.
Wow.
So annual $275.
Wow.
Really good. And then our regular price point will be $35 a month.
Okay.
Or I think it's $350 a year, where you get 2 months free.
It's actually this is really great. So we'll put everything in the show notes, cashflowy.ai.
Yep.
And I feel like I'm always extracting knowledge and wisdom from you and the way that your brain thinks and the way that you think of solving problems and using that as fuel to head into the next business that you are going to be creating. So before we let you go, we have a spill the chai round. And so you can answer this as quick as you want, as short as you want. What is one book that completely changed the way you think business?
I would say Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
he's been on the podcast, and
okay.
we'll put his episode in the show notes. Everybody loves him. Yeah. Biggest business lesson that you learned the hard way?
I think the biggest lesson is you cannot figure it all out in your head. You just never will. You need to just get into action, and then based on what happens, course correct. And earlier when I was building my first business and maybe even first two businesses, I kept thinking that there's like a destination. I'm going to get to a point where like the website is done, the funnel is perfect, the product is perfect. And what I've realized is there's no such thing as done. This is a journey, and you're going to be course correcting and course correcting and course correcting until you don't have this business anymore. And so just get into action, like create a basic plan and just start, because you're going to learn so much when you get going, and then you're going to just pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot. And it's going to be a series of pivots. And
until you actually nail the thing that people really love.
Yeah.
So your go-to productivity hack.
Systems. I have a system for everything, including my personal life.
How did I know you were going to say that? Of course. Your personal money mantra.
Money is the most abundant resource on the planet. It is the one thing that you can always, always make more of.
One piece of advice for women who are reinventing themselves and they actually want to start maybe a new venture, a new thing, a new creative project.
Get aligned. I think alignment is everything. Alignment matters more than all of the steps. When you're aligned, the path appears and the steps start appearing, and you'll just take them and then you'll pivot, pivot, pivot. But if you're doing something unaligned, you're just going to hit wall after wall after wall. So like get still, get quiet, get clear, get aligned.
And what does brave mean to you?
Figuring out the life you really actually want, not the life that anyone wants for you, your parents, anyone. What really truly fills you up and makes you happy, and then like going for it.
Ooh. And I know you have a very special freebie for all of our listeners today, and we will put it in the show notes. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah. So go to cashflowyresources.com, cashflowyresources.com. We have a bunch of resources there, but one specific one that's there at the top for your audience is the 4 KPIs, numbers that you need to know in your business, how to track them, how to make smarter decisions based on them. Okay. If you get Cashflowy, that's more of an automated process for you, but this freebie does show you what they are, and you can get started with it like right away. At least you know what you should be looking at and why and what to do about those numbers.
Wow. Wow, Heidi, I feel like we've been on a journey and a roller coaster today, really just so inspired by your life and the way that you were able to, have such an inner knowing for yourself of what is in alignment for you and what isn't, and then to go out and say, all right, I'm not doing this anymore, to kind of take that emotional load and kind of reclaim yourself in the process, and just watching you walk the walk and walk the path and to like blazon into this new next adventure. And I'm just so excited. I think Cashflowy is going to be so powerful. And I feel like so many people can really learn from your wisdom. So where can we follow the journey and you?
So you can follow me Instagram, just my Heidi DeCoux, Instagram.com/Heidi DeCoux, or Cashflowy-AI, or I think it's cashflowy.ai. And if you go to our website, cashflowy.ai, all the links are there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your heart and your wisdom. And well, stay tuned for more.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the other side. Wow. I mean, she is just a big ball of light and fresh air. And I feel like anytime that I'm in the same room with her, I feel like so many ideas pop up, and it's, such typical Vata energy, but it's, when you're with and you're surrounding yourself with other people who light you up. And in the conversation today, being able to have that partner, whether it's a love partner, and we all deserve a loving champion that is going to be kind of bringing the best out of each other, but also knowing that for yourself. So if you are in a space of reinvention, if you are in a space of just owning your baddie self without a partner, to be able to be so lit up about the work that you are doing and the person you're becoming, just like Heidi was sharing in the episode today, I feel like that is something you all can access for yourself. And with that, I would love, if you love this episode, please share this with a friend, a bestie that's going through a season of reinvention, maybe somebody that wants to or have more alignment in their life, or maybe even needs a little bit of financial support in their business if they are a solopreneur. Share this with them. If you're first watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? We love, love, love your comments. So please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a beat, and comment below on what were some of your takeaways. Like this episode. It really helps us grow the show more than you know. If this episode really landed with you in a particular way, tell us what you think on Instagram. We are at The Brave Table, and tag us at Neeta Bhushan, tag Heidi DeCoux, and let her know what you loved so much about this episode today. And I will see you soon. Don't forget to be just a little bit more brave in your life, in your actions, and in your relationships. You know I've got so much more in store for you. So if you are really ready to dive in and keep owning your emotions like the boss that you are, click right here. Go ahead, don't be shy. I'll see you in the next one. Keep shining.